I have currently 9 locations, 4 in Brooklyn, 5 in Manhattan.
Blind Abilities presents the Randolph-Sheppard Vendors of America on the opportunities presented by the Business Enterprise Program.
I mostly use the New York subway because all my buildings are right next to or a block away from the New York subway stations. It helps not to be able to have a driver, so I'm able to save some money there.
I think the biggest one that is the most important, especially to today's younger generation, is what it really takes to be a leader. If you want to own your own business, you have to know how to lead.
And without further ado, here's Gloria, Steve, Kyle, and Scott Eggen.
To kind of learn what to look out for, what cues we should be looking at before we hire somebody, because they're crazy people out there, man. I mean,
We hope you enjoy. Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Today, the Randolph-Sheppard Vendors of America is presenting 3 newer members to this Business Enterprise Program. But first, I want to bring back on the president of the Randolph-Sheppard Vendors of America, Scott Eggen. Scott, welcome back.
Well, thank you. Enjoy being here and really looking forward to visit with our 3 new folks on with us tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's really interesting because we had the seasoned veterans talking away, and now we get to hear of the perspective of some what we might call newbies.
Right. They certainly have a few less years under their belt than I do, so this is very exciting. All right. Well, first off, I'd like to start with our friend Steve from California. Steve, if you'd come on, introduce yourself and say hello to the folks.
Yep. So I'm Steve Alfred. I'm based out of the Los Angeles area. I've been with the Business Enterprises Program since 2015. I operate a rest stop as well as a couple other small vending routes, and been very blessed to be in the Business Enterprises Program. It gives me a lot of opportunity over the years.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you for being with us today. Next up on our list, we have Gloria, who also is a California native. So, Gloria, if you could come on, tell us your name and where you're at.
all right. So my name is Gloria Blanco, born Santa Monica, California, raised in Inglewood, California. I've been a vendor for 18 years. I just absolutely love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It's a beautiful program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us. Last but certainly not least, on the other side of the country from New York, we have Kyle. Kyle, please come on. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Well, hello. Well, first of all, it is an honor to meet the president. Never done that before. But yes, I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I started in this program in 2015, and I have a vending route. So no store, just a vending route in Brooklyn and Manhattan. And the program has been awesome and fantastic for me so far.
Well, great. Glad to hear it. Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing the stories from each of you. So,
Hey, Scott,
yeah.
we've had others talk about what they've been doing, but I think this is the first time they mentioned just vending route. What is a vending route?
A vending route is just vending machines throughout certain areas, and there's no store. Specifically deal with vending machines, beverage machines, snack machines, machines with food in it, frozen machines, stuff like that.
All right. Kyle, since we have you going, let's talk about your experience coming to the Business Enterprise Program. How did you hear about it? Where did you have to go to find out more? Talk about the training you had to go through and how you got your first business.
Okay. I've heard about it way back in 2003. I was 16 years old. In New York, they do summer youth programs where they try to expose children to these kind of opportunities for summer jobs. So that's where I first experienced it. It was 3 months and it was nice. You know, at first I didn't see myself doing this. I thought it was just good to have an option. And I went through life. I was going to school for technical theater, which is lighting, sound, and set construction. And I have Stargardt's disease, which is a juvenile form of macular degeneration. So I have no central vision. My peripheral is fine. But as I started going through school, I can tell that it was something that I could not do long term. And I felt kind of lost because I wanted to be happy and know that I am competent and confident in doing what I wanted to do. And the technical theater wasn't it for me. And I got kind of lost. So I was working with another manager, Gary Grassman, for a while, for like a couple years. And he told me, hey, there's an opportunity. They're doing classes. I said, you know what? I've been doing this for a while. I know how it works. I've met other managers and I said, this is something that I know I could be good in. I have great mentorship, and I went to the classes, did the classes in 2015 for a few months, and I did my internship after the few classes. And in August of 2015, I got a spot, and that's how it all started.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Steve, how about the same question to you? Could you tell us about how you ended up in your program and how it progressed from there?
Absolutely. I started out as a business major at California State University, Long Beach. I knew I wanted to do something in business, didn't know particularly what. I originally figured something in the technology industry because that's what I was raised in. And eventually down my college career, I tried out hospitality management. That sounded interesting to me and really liked it. And at the time, I was a client of Department of Rehabilitation, and my counselor at Department of Rehabilitation had mentioned the Business Enterprises Program, and I chose to check it out, and it sounded very interesting, and I chose to leave college for the BEP, and I've never looked back since. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. It's really presented me with many opportunities, not just to run a business, but possibly expanding in the food service industry, even on the private sector.
Well, great. Thank you, Steve, for sharing that. How about you, Gloria? Can you kind of fill us in on how you ended up in your business enterprise program?
You have time? Because I can tell you some stories.
We love stories here.
Okay. That's what it's about, right?
That's right.
I guess long story short, I lost my parents at a very young age. I was 20 when my mother passed and about 24 when my dad passed. By the time he passed, I had 2 young children, divorced, and just really depending on my dad. And on his deathbed, I was actually attending the Braille Institute. At this time, back in 2002, I had no idea how to turn on a computer. I didn't know how to read Braille. I was clueless. I was living my life literally blindly. So while I was at the Braille Institute, my father's in his deathbed, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? He would help me with, so much. I was on welfare. I had my 2 kids. I was just kind of living family. And while I was at the Braille Institute, I met a few people. And one of the people that I met, her name was Martha. I believe she's already retired. She was in the BEP. But at that time, she was there at Braille. And she said to me, I'm going to this program and you can run your own business. And I was like, really? Like, what do you mean? And I was just this young girl with these 2 kids, and I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And I just kind of brushed it off a little bit. And I went to junior college for 2 years, and I thought I wanted to get into child development. That didn't work out. Once they put me in the classroom, I said, oh no, I can't do this. I love kids, but I can't be in a classroom full of kids all day. So like Steve, I was with the Department of Rehab, and I said, listen, when I was at Braille, this person told me about this program. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, yeah, it's a program. You get your own business. Oh, I don't think you're fit for that. And I said, well, I want to do it. I want to try it. And I pushed and I pushed. And finally, she said, okay, I'll find out for you. And she did. And there I go with my 2 little ones. They were 6 and 8 to Sacramento, which I've never been to, by myself with my 2 girls. And I went. And I went through the program, and there was a few times that I cried. The instructor at that time, Bill Shira, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Bill, the best instructor ever. In my opinion, he really cared about the program. He really cared about us. He taught us, those who wanted to learn. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that I found this program, because there's so many of us blind women with children that don't know what we're going to do with our lives. And this program allowed me to get off of welfare and have my own independence and my own money and be able to raise my children and buy my home. And it's just such a great, great program. Just beautiful. And I'm very grateful, very, very grateful. So anything that I can do to provide, knowledge to those people, to those women that are in my that situation that I was in then, I'd really love to do that.
All right. Well, Gloria, I'm just shaking my head. Yes, yes. And I've got goosebumps listening to your story. It's fantastic. So thank you for being persistent on getting into the program, for sure. So,
yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about each of your businesses now, where you're at. Maybe a little bit about what your day may look like, that kind of thing. So Kyle, would you like to start off kind of telling us about your route in New York? What an interesting place to have a vending route.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I have currently 9 locations, 4 in Brooklyn, 5 in Manhattan, and they're different state and federal buildings, bankruptcy court, IRS, New York State taxation, College of Optometry, the Commission of the Blind State Building, Department of Corrections. I can't remember some of them just off the top, but that's pretty much the majority of them. For me, a successful day is to have a schedule, and that is key. I make sure that I have a schedule to go to certain places on certain days, and that keeps everything in order and not crazy. I mostly use the New York subway because all my buildings are right next to or a block away from the New York subway station. So that's how I usually get around. So it helps not to be able to have a driver. So I'm able to save some money there. But it's also more efficient because in New York City, as you may know, the traffic is crazy. It can take you in a car in Manhattan to just go a few blocks, 15, 30 minutes. It's ridiculous. I make orders. Most of my places have storage locations. So I'm able to make orders, especially for drinks. That's the key because it's hard to carry drinks around place to place. But snacks is okay because they're nice and light. So I'm able to do it. I'm still young enough. I'm 35. So I'm still able to do it. To prepare for a hard day's work, I do exercise. I do try to keep in shape. I do yoga, try to be flexible and try to be strong. But yeah, that's what I do.
What a cool story.
Yeah.
It's just very inspiring to hear what you do. So thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Steve, can you tell us a little bit about your business and a little bit about what your day may look like?
Yeah, sure. Well, similar to Kyle, I am fortunate enough to have storage on site with most of my facilities. One thing I've learned definitely over the years is how helpful technology and assistive technology has been with running my business. Usually what my morning starts with is I get emailed a sales report. It gives me a report on how all my vending machines are doing. And it's much more than just showing how much money each machine has made. I can see how much cash sales, how much credit card sales. And my job from that report is to make sure that every machine is making sales. You know, I might have a machine that might not be doing any sales. That's my signal to either me personally go out to that machine or call my employee to see is that machine functioning properly. Or, for example, it may be only receiving credit card sales, not cash sales. So I need to see, okay, is that machine out of change? Things of that nature. On top of that, I use an electronic inventory system so I'm able to remotely track the inventory of each machine, make sure they're being filled properly. It's really allowed me to, at one time, without actually being there and being able to manage it. And similar to Kyle, I do place orders on a weekly basis, balance my books. I do my own accounting. I know many do not, but to me, it's really worked well because it's been able to allow me to be on top of all my accounts and my bills, make sure my business is flowing properly financially.
All right. Can I ask you just a couple of quick questions? You sparked some of my curiosity. So one, how do you get from place to place? Because people who are listening will be curious in how you maneuver around. Secondly, it sounds like you have employees, and how many do you have?
Correct. Well, I have 2 employees right now, and that's because that way if one is out, I can have another one cover. I've found that to be better over the years. As for how I get around, I am fortunate that I can't get exactly to my rest stop via public transit. Rest stops are always tricky because they're not in city centers like many other areas where transit is readily available and even Ubers and Lyfts are available. So I am able to take transit to as close as a mile away. I usually get transported with one of my employees. That's part of their job description. And it still allows me to travel there economically versus paying the ride share each way. But I think one thing I've learned over the years with having so many locations, that every location is different and you're always going to have your strengths and your challenges with each location. So it's always a matter of finding out how the location, because no one solution is going to work for each one.
Yes, that is so true. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. Gloria, can you kind of fill us in a little bit about your business and things like how you get around and if you have employees and all those good things?
Sure. I'd love to share. Well, Start off by telling you exactly what I do, what my locations are. So I work with the court system in San Bernardino. So I have 2 courthouses with cafes inside of each location. These are pretty much wet stands, which they do have a means of making coffee, but there's no kitchen. There's only just kind of grab and go type items. It's kind of like, I guess you can say like a 7-Eleven type thing. And that's 2 of them. And then the other one is a Caltrans building. And in that Caltrans building, it's a cafe and deli. So I have a kitchen. There's no stove, but it's pretty much all cold cuts. But I do serve hot food as well. I use my imagination, and with rice cookers and microwaves and little ovens, I'm able to produce food. So I make, sandwiches and salads and hot burritos, breakfast sandwiches, that type of stuff. And inside of each of these buildings, there's vending machines. And every other day I'll check my vending machines and I'll make sure that I stock because I have everything there. So I just go in there and stock. And just so people are not, I know there's going to be a lot of people listening, and it just sounds intimidating, especially because, for example, Steve is very technologically inclined, but not all of us are. I am not technologically inclined, but I'm very hands-on. Technology is not for everybody, but there's other ways around it. So I don't want people to be intimidated by that type of thing. Besides the stores, I have employees. I don't really work the stores anymore because they've got them set up to where they kind of run themselves. And I just pop in every so often and I make sure that they're stocking and they're front-facing product and pulling forward and making sure everything's fresh, nothing's expired, that type of stuff. Make sure they're wearing in their uniforms because that's really important to me that my employees look presentable. And besides the stores, I have a vending route and I'm inside of the post offices. So I have vending machines inside of the distribution centers. And I typically like to fill that myself. I used to have employees who would do that and take care of it, but I realized that nobody cares the way you care. I used to have like a lot of wasted product or, things that would expire because they didn't put it in, or if it just kind of sat around or got pushed on the side. And since I started taking over that task, I have very little spoilage and my storeroom is organized at all times, to my liking. It just gets done quickly. I go in, I go out, and I'm done. I'm very full of faith and I'm very thankful and grateful because I've been able to purchase my own vehicle. I have employees who will come, leave their car here at my house and then just drive me. So I say, okay, today I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then here we go. Or for example, I do get some deliveries, but not all the time. I'll order from Sam's Club. I'll order online and then I'll just go pick up in my truck. It saves me a lot of money. It doesn't save me time, but it does save me money. So I'm happy with that.
I can tell you've been doing this a while. When you start talking about saving time and saving money, you've been doing this for a little while now.
Oh yeah.
That is an important thing to know, is where your time goes and where your money goes, for sure.
Yes. You can say, I don't want to pay an extra employee, but sometimes it doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with the time that you're saving to get from point A to point B, and being able to pop into different sites at a snap of a finger. Hey, you know what? I changed my mind. I need to go here first, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. Or let's say somebody didn't show up. Hey, you know what? I need to go here. I need to go cover, or leave me here, go do this, and then come back and get me. It comes with time, and you just kind of start learning from your mistakes. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, but sometimes it's part of business. And we just have to love what we do. I think that's the key. That's the important part, because a lot of people say, you can run your own business, but if you don't love it and you don't care about it, you're not going to be successful. You really have to enjoy what you do and put pride and love into what you're doing in order to be successful. So anybody who's interested or who's really wants to do it, just think about it. think about it because it is time consuming. It's very stressful at times, but it's very rewarding. I encourage a lot of people because there's a lot of vendors who are getting older and they need to retire and they're not retiring.
Oh, I'll drink one to that.
Yes. Cheers to that. Yeah. I love what I do, but I don't want to sit there and hold on. I want the next young girl with the 2 kids that needs that position. I want her to come in. So let's retire and let the young ones kind of take over.
Right. No, absolutely. That is an issue with many of our programs in this country, is that we are aging.
Mm-hmm.
I personally still love my job every day, but there are many of us getting up there in age, and we need to have folks come in behind us. So thank you, Gloria, for that, because you're spot on. You absolutely are spot on. So just a real quick question for the 3 of you, and I'll let you guys jump in as you will. I've heard all the 3 of you describe your businesses brilliantly. Is this the only business you've ever had since you got into the program?
Yes, this is Kyle. Yes, so far.
Okay, very good. How about you, Steve?
Well, as I said in my introduction, part of the reason why I wanted to get into the program is I thought it would open up our opportunity for me to do food service in the private sector. So I do have a couple personal vending machines that I own, that I operate still through my same company that I own that are not through BP. I was able to obtain the sites myself. And that's what I hope a lot of people listening understand. Many people think, well, sure, if you're legally blind, you can do food service, but you have to go into BP and that's it. And that's really not true. I hope for some, they see the Business Enterprises Program as a stepping stone opportunity, just as I have. I do plan on doing more food service opportunities in the private sector, whether it be opening up my own convenience store or opening up my restaurant. And BP has really enabled me to do that because obviously starting out with that requires a lot of capital and most people don't have that. And BP allows you to gain, first of all, the experience with a backed support system and a proven support system that work for many others, and then you can obtain the capital and the experience you need to go out on your own. And I think if more and more people that are legally blind do that, it really can change the face of the program. They will see the Business Enterprises Program as something that not only gives opportunity, but opens up more opportunity for the future. Gloria had touched on those wanting to retire. I hope someday that I go on to the private sector. Who knows? I might have a chain of food service establishment, and therefore I won't need my Business Enterprise Program locations anymore and can pass it on to the next visually impaired person to hopefully do the same. Many of us, we may just stay in until we're ready to retire, but I believe there's some that don't have to. So as of right now, to go back to the original question, the only businesses I have are my vending businesses. I have done stores and delis in the past through BEP. Obviously, the pandemic's changed a lot of that because we have a lot of teleworking throughout the country now.
Right.
So many of us have converted to vending, but that's really what I do. It's primarily just food service, but I know there's going to be a lot more in the future for me.
Well, thank you.
And myself, going back to my story, before BEP, when I had my young girls, I didn't have much money. So what I would do is I would go downtown LA and I would go buy perfumes. And then I would go and walk around office buildings offering perfumes to like the receptionist or whoever I knew. I'd say, hey, you want to buy? And I would make myself like $20, $30 on each perfume. And that's how I was able to like dress my children and feed them and, just whatever little necessities that they had. So that was the beginning of my sales.
Very interesting stories you folks have. Jeff, anything come to mind here as we start to wind up? Any questions you'd like to ask?
I never thought about the Business Enterprise Program as being a stepping stone, but Steve, what you're doing and what you've done to take that extra step further to enhance your opportunities and take advantage of the opportunities that the BEP program gave you is really exciting. And Gloria, to be uppricing the perfumes and making a profit, just to survive, it just shows that you already had a passion for selling products, and the vending program, the opportunities that you get there is very encouraging. I'm sure other people are listening, and it just seems like such a future can be had. And Kyle, doing what you're doing on the subway, going from place to place, you're right in the mix. What I always think of New York, cars honking, traffic, there's Kyle.
And sometimes those elevators and escalators don't work.
Oh, that's the
Oh
word.
yeah, that's
I
another.
don't in Los Angeles either.
Keep up the exercise and yoga.
Yeah.
But you're making it work. All three of you are making it work. And it seems like the Business Enterprise Program is flexible enough to make it work for anybody that's interested in it, that there's probably something for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have one last question for the three of you. So at this point in your career, you've been down the road a little bit here. What piece of wisdom can you pass on to somebody who's listening to this going, ooh, the Business Enterprise Program? Oh, I should check that out. What would you have them ask from what you now know about the Business Enterprise Program? Kyle, do you have a thought?
I'll go back to when I was younger, because when you're doing it as a summer job, you kind of think it's easy. It's just like, oh, I can do this. This is nothing, right? But it is a lot more involved in it. You have to be on top of your stuff. You got to learn about money. You got to learn about accounting. You got to learn about merchandising. So it's nothing specific, but I would just say go in not thinking that it's easy. You're going to have to put more work into it, because what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. It's not a set it and forget it business. It's not like that. You have to put in the work for it to be successful. Kind of like what Gloria was saying, is just you kind of have to have an ever-loving, dying passion for it. You do have to be passionate about it in some way. You have to like what you do and to put in the work so you can be successful.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. Gloria, do you have a thought?
I think that we need to be trained a little more on the hiring process to kind of learn what to look out for, what cues we should be looking at before we hire somebody. Because they're crazy people out there, man. I mean,
I've been at this a long time and I'm still looking for those magic keys.
I mean, they pretty much drown themselves. Wish somebody would have told me, hey, you know what? Just let them talk and they'll just kind of drown themselves. You learn that with time. I think that's one of my biggest struggles right now, is just finding good help, people who really care and are honest. But times have changed. So we just have to learn what the future has for us, which is technology, right, Steve?
Absolutely.
So, Steve, what would you have for knowing where you are now as you entered this program years ago? What would you have that new person ask or think about?
I think the biggest thing, there's a lot you could say to answer this question. Creativity is certainly one. Many people think, oh, it's as simple as just filling vending machines, using same charts, same product, but it's not. It involves creativity. But I think the biggest one that is the most important, especially to today's younger generation, is what it really takes to be a leader. Unfortunately, I think in the younger generations, we are losing a lot of good leaders, and people need to understand what a leader truly is. Many people, they're just followers and just do something because everyone else is doing it. That's not what a leader is. And if you want to own your own business, you have to know how to lead. Gloria was just talking about employees and hiring people. You are leading those employees. They are following your lead. So I think it's really important for candidates that are interested, just ask other vendors, ask other business owners, what does it take to be a good leader? I know we have a lot of leaders out there that are young. I think they're just really buried with the followers, and it takes a lot to find them. So hopefully many are listening to this.
Absolutely. That's important. We're always looking for those rising stars that are willing to step up above just a little bit and make this program better. And with all of your three help, you have been contributing to making this program better. With that, I do want to thank all three of you, Kyle, Steve, Gloria. Thank you so much. It's been a fantastic adventure listening to your stories. We thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
And for those of you listening, if anyone has any questions about their business enterprise program in their state, or actually RSVA as well, certainly feel free to drop me a note, svsvend@yahoo.com, and I will be happy to help you do your search to find what you're looking for. So here at RSVA, we're a big, warm family, and we want to bring folks in, take you under our wing and help you along and watch you grow. That's what we do, and we love doing it. So thank you all for joining us.
Exciting stuff. Thank you, Scott Eggen, and thank you, Kyle, Steve, and Gloria, for being on this episode of the Randolph-Sheppard Vendors of America podcast right here on Blind Abilities. be sure to contact your vocational rehab, your state agency for the blind, and find out more about the Business Enterprise Program. And to find out more about the Randolph-Sheppard Vendors of America, check out the links in the show notes. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
And the realities of blind abilities.